Okay, thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
So now I can say I'm a recording artist.
Yes.
With no pay.
I don't think they make much anymore anyhow.
Probably not.
But they do end up in jail a lot. Hello, Ken.
Hi, good afternoon.
Are you all set up there with your computer and you got the captions on?
Yes, I have, and I am.
That's excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Hello, Alan. You were muted. You don't need to be. I have 4 o'clock on my clock. Mickey Mouse hand is pointing to the 12.
Yep, that's it.
So I think in the interest of time, we will start this and make this officially started. And I think I should announce that the meeting is being recorded. If you have any concerns about that, let's resolve that right now.
Well, the important thing, I think, is that everybody smiles.
May I be excused for 5 minutes and I can go shave?
And if you're going to eat, or, you can just turn your camera off, because don't make me hungry.
Or share.
Or yeah, sure.
Turning your camera off is actually a good practice and good protocol in any case. But I'd like to get the meeting started by having Sarah Ozer to kick it off and make some comments.
Thanks so much, Rich. I'd like to welcome everyone, and please mute yourself if you're not speaking right now. I'd like to welcome Rich Osborne. You met him, Vice President, Sonoma County. Tawna Cooley, Vice President, Marin County. Bill Dials, our featured speaker from Kenwood Hearing Centers. Jim Moser, my husband, tech support. Fran Titlow from Sonoma County. Tony Barriant from Southern California and California State Association. Matthew Parker from Sonoma County. Sonoma County. Alan Katsura from Diablo Valley chapter, and Ken Nelson from HLAA North Bay right here. We have a wonderful meeting in store for you today. We have our introductions and then our speaker, Bill Dials, and that will be followed by a question and answer session hosted by Tawna Cooley. And after that, we'll be socializing by Jim Moser, and we'll have some announcements. The mission of HLAA is to improve the world of communication for people with hearing loss through information, education, support, and advocacy. And to that end, we have a featured speaker today to talk about support. Before we have our speaker, I'd like to just give you a chapter update. We're the North Bay chapter of California. We're in Marin County and Sonoma County. We're all thrilled that Zoom is now making captions available to everyone. So you can advocate for people with hearing loss by requesting captions whenever you're going to attend any Zoom meeting anywhere. It's a good idea to ask the host ahead of time to enable the captions. They will have to do that in their Zoom account, and it will say enable live transcription service to show transcript on the side panel in meeting. After they've done that, then all participants can then activate their own captions. The second item is tomorrow in Zoom between 2:30 and 3:30, the Marin County Disability employee, Lainey Davidson, is having a get together. She wants to know how Marin County can respond better to the COVID pandemic for people with disabilities. If you can attend this meeting, that would be terrific. Please let me know. I will be putting the meeting and the passcode in the chat in a minute when I'm finished speaking. I cannot be there. I'm getting my second COVID shot tomorrow, exactly at that time, 2:45. I cannot be at that meeting. It would be great if one or more of the people here could make themselves known to Marin County. So thank you very much for listening to the update. Now I'd like to hand our program over to Tawna Cooley.
So hello everyone. I'd like to remind you, as Sarah did, that if you, you're all muted, thank you. I'd like for us to welcome our speaker, Bill Dials. He's an audiologist at Kenwood Hearing Centers in Sonoma. They have multiple offices, which he may tell you about. Bill will be speaking about the ways hearing health care providers can support people with hearing loss. And I would like to ask you to please save your questions until after Bill has spoken and we have a question and answer period. You can put your questions in chat if you would like to do that, but we won't be answering them until afterwards. And yeah, but otherwise, please save your question for the question and answer. So with no further ado, Bill, would you like to say hello?
Hello, thank you. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody see it? Great. Okay. Well, thanks for having me. I'm passionate about better hearing, and the opportunity to share just my perspective might be a little unique. Well, I'll just jump into it, because what's kind of unique about my story is that it actually started in 1934 with my grandfather. So he was in Billings, Montana when he got into the hearing aid business. And he ended up in, fitting hearing aids that looked something like this, I imagine. And I like to joke that by the time he retired, they'd gotten a lot more attractive. They probably looked something like this. So my grandfather ended up in New York City, where he was vice president of a company called Sonotone. Anybody remember Sonotone as a brand? They've been out of business quite a while, but some people remember Sonotone. Yeah, Tawna does. So he recruited my father into the industry, but my father wanted to get back to Ohio, where he was raised. So he had a hearing aid practice there, and that's where I was raised. And there's a university in that town of Athens, Ohio, and that's Ohio University. I met my wife in audiology school, and we ended up in Kenwood in Santa Rosa, where we purchased Kenwood Hearing Center in 1981. And people were thinking that we were in the town of Kenwood, but we were actually, the man we bought out, his name was Nick Kenwood. So Kenwood Hearing Centers, and he had been in Santa Rosa since 1959. So Kenwood Hearing Center is the longest established hearing center in Sonoma County. And since then, our children have gotten involved in the business. So my grandfather briefly hired his mother, which makes my children the fifth generation in this industry. So it's a long 87-year tradition. I'm pretty sure we're the longest running family in America. So it's a rich tradition. We have now 6 locations, with 5 locations in Sonoma County, 3 in Santa Rosa, 1 in Sonoma, and 1 here in Petaluma, where I'm at today. This is where I work. So, I like to bring up different things like, when we're struggling, I used to say to people when I was early in my career, they would come into my office and say, I don't have a hearing problem. It's just that everybody mumbles. And I would say, well, that's not true. People don't mumble. I was young and naive. Turns out people really do mumble, right? Here's a voicemail I got from an Australian friend of mine. And as you can tell, it makes no sense when I went to read it. Hey, Bill, it's Chase Bowl. Talk with you to try and Happy New Year. Give me a quick call about Virginia. So in other words, this is proof that a lot of people just don't speak clearly. And I like to say that because it's not always our fault, right, when we're asking for repetition. And then for those of us who have little children in our life, boy, they're difficult to hear, right? And I just bring up this slide so I can show off some of my grandkids. I've had 3 COVID babies this year. None of them are in that picture. I have 3 babies younger than these kids. The 2 in the middle are twins. But so I've been blessed with 7 grandchildren in 7 years. But I live very close to those twins, and boy, they're sure hard to hear, those little voices. And like we were just talking about, masks. Oh, do they ever unmask hearing loss? Isn't it just, it's just miserable to go out these days and not only not get the visual cues, but to have all the high frequencies rolled off. And I just want to say to people, would you just pull your mask down for a second so I can hear what you're saying to me? Because this is getting embarrassing. I'm asking you 2 or 3 times. And I like to ask this, how many times can we ask somebody to repeat comfortably, right? Once, would you say, can I get that again? And then by the 3rd time, a lot of times we just end up faking it, right? And that gets us in trouble. But sometimes I just need to ask, please take your mask down so I can hear. So you're all aware probably of the anatomy of the ear. We do diagnostic testing in our offices, and to determine if there's just an earwax problem, or if someone has a middle ear issue going on, where we'll refer out, to a ENT. But most often we're dealing with hearing loss that's happening in the cochlea. And as you know from the shape of the cochlea, we lose our high frequencies first. They're the first to go. And low frequencies are the power behind speech, and high frequencies are the clarity behind speech. And I have a visual example here. The top word is missing the vowels, and I think everyone can tell right away what that word is, right? Newspaper. The bottom words, that's actually 2 words, missing the consonants. So this is a visual example of when we're not getting high frequencies, and it's very hard to make out what someone's saying. So we like to talk to people a lot about, sure, we can diagnose your hearing loss and what's going on with your ear, but the real issue is that we don't hear with our ears, right? We hear with our brains. And there's a woman in Colorado that does research on the brain, and she's an audiologist and a neuroscientist named Anu Sharma, and she did a study where she put her subjects in an MRI, and then she would give them tasks to see which part of the brain would light up. So she would give them a vision task like the one we just had, and the occipital lobe lights up. She'd give them a hearing task, and the temporal lobe lights up. Then she'd take subjects with hearing loss, give them a listening task, and the prefrontal cortex lights up. So I just think this slide is so important. I use this slide almost every day because in our practice, we see a lot of people who are just on the fence, who are just starting to recognize that they're missing things. And, the average person waits 7 years before they make the first step to do something about their hearing. And I like to show them this picture, and they can relate to it, that when you're not getting a good signal to your brain, you're having to use that thinking part of your brain, the part of your brain that is for discerning and judgment, and you're putting that kind of strain just to understand what's being said to you. And I think this is just a perfect picture. And the bottom line is you're very tired by the end of the day. And what's interesting, we're going to talk about a few hearing aids in a minute, but if you're all aware of the company Oticon, they talk a lot about about the ease of hearing. It's not as much, do you hear, do you not hear? They like to see how much effort the person has to put in. So when they're testing their hearing aids, they actually do this called pupillometry, where they can measure the dilation of the pupil to assess how hard the person's working in the lab. They've got noise going, and they actually can get a measurement to determine the effort the person is putting in to hear. I think it's kind of interesting. So when I look back on my career of, so I fit my first hearing aid on my 20th birthday. I'm 45 years in this industry. And I started thinking about all the different manufacturers that we've seen. And I went online and typed in Phonak, or well, they're still around, but like Panasonic tried it, Zenith hearing aids, Microtech, Audiotone. These are Mako. This office in Santa Rosa used to be called Mako of Santa Rosa when it was started in 1959. And I have a woman who still comes to me. She lives here in Petaluma. And I found a contract one time with her name on it from 1962. And I said, Betty, you've been coming to Kenwood Hearing Center since I was 7 years old. But so she was seeing Mr. Kenwood when it was called Mako of Santa Rosa. So we used to have all these different manufacturers, but today, well, I want to make this one point. It's not like a vision test, as you all know. You can have your eyes examined and take that prescription anywhere, and you're going to get lenses that are pretty much the same, right? But with hearing aids, right, we don't have that dialed in quite so well. But instead of having those 40 manufacturers, we are now down to 6. So these 6 companies across the top of the screen make up 95% of all the hearing aids in the world. And so these are the survivors, and none of these companies are going away. They have survived. Now, Signia and Widex have actually joined forces. They were purchased by a private equity company. So we really are down to 5 companies. And then you'll see the manufacturers below. Those are just other trade names of the same parent companies. It's like Belltone. If you go into a Belltone office, you're certainly going to be getting a Resound. If you go into a Miracle Ear office, you're going to get a Signia. So these 6 manufacturers are the survivors. And they are constantly leapfrogging each other in their race to provide the next best technology. So what we like to stress is it's important for a consumer to go somewhere that's independent. Because if you go to an office that's owned by Oticon or owned by Phonak, obviously you're going to get that brand, even if that's not ideal for your situation. And right here in Sonoma County, we have at least 3 offices, 3 clinics that are owned by Oticon and Phonak. And you would never know it as a consumer business. They don't put their name on the business, but they own it. There's other arrangements like with Starkey, where you go into an office that's got some kind of financial arrangement with Starkey, and that's what you're going to walk out the door with. So we stress that it's really important to be independent. So as a new product comes along, we have no problem jumping on that and fitting it without any commitment. So we're not committed to any of these companies. And the way we like to work is through what we call the hearing aid test drive, because you hear with your brain, and all these manufacturers have different ways of bringing the signal into your brain, and you're going to prefer one over the other. And the only way to know that is by experiencing and listening. So we keep demonstrator models of all these brands pretty much. So you get the chance to listen to these before you would make that purchase, which is a major investment. So you don't want to get hearing aids, as we talk to a lot of new people, that end up in the drawer, and you don't want to buy hearing aids that aren't giving you the optimal result because you didn't have a chance to listen to it. You didn't have any choice. And I think the mistake that's made in our whole industry is that when you go into an office or a clinic for the first time, you have your hearing evaluated, a hearing aid is recommended, and I contend that there's no way anybody could possibly know on the first visit how you're going to perform with a specific product. So I like to caution people against just taking someone's word for it, because we don't know how you're going to respond. And I'll give you some examples. I'm just going to talk about two of the brands. This is a Unitron slide, but they're actually the same chip that their parent company Phonak. I think we all know about Phonak. Great. I just like this slide, but Phonak has the same technology where when you move throughout your day, the hearing aids recognize what kind of environment you're in, and they'll automatically adjust into 7 different modes. Those of you who live in Sonoma County or Marin, you might know the restaurant Volpe's in downtown Petaluma. That's John Volpe there, and this photograph is with his permission. He's a good friend, and that's a wonderful place. And when we get back open again, I can't wait to see him down there playing the accordion again. But he's in a very challenging environment, and when he's wearing this technology, we took a snapshot of his life and we can see what's going on with the hearing aids. We can see that he's in quiet conversation 7% of the time. He's in no conversation and quiet 7%. And you can look at small group, crowd, noise. That's a big number. You add those up. That's his noisy bar in the back of the restaurant. And music, 19% of the time. So that's when he comes in, we can actually read the hearing aids, and we can get a snapshot of kind of his lifestyle. And this gentleman has a very noisy life. so that's really wonderful technology that will automatically shift gears for you. The other one I want to talk about is Oticon. We've always had directional microphones in our hearing aids, and that's been around for 25, 30 years or so, where the hearing aid's picking up where you're looking and blocking out to the sides and the back. And that's been a nice strategy to hear in noise, but we don't really live in a directional world. There may be somebody slightly off to your right or somebody behind you trying to get your attention. So 5 years ago, Oticon came up with a technology called an Open Sound Navigator, and the product's called Open, OPN, where they give your brain more of a 360 degree, more of a surround sound experience, rather than chopping into different modes in a directional strategy. So this has been a very successful product for them, and they've now taken it to the next level. So this product is called Oticon More, and it's really interesting. And I'm not an engineer, so I have trouble explaining something that I don't quite understand myself. But what we have here is artificial intelligence. This is their new chip. I think it's called the Polaris chip, and it's 20 times faster than the Open. But what it has is what they call a deep neural network. So I'm going to read what they say about it. Oticon is the next level in the evolution of advanced hearing aid technology, featuring DNN. That's a deep neural network. The intelligent DNN mimics the human brain. It is trained on 12 million real-life sound scenes to give the brain more of the information it needs to decipher the intricate details of sounds, so that hearing aid users can better focus on what matters to them without losing track of meaningful sounds that are happening around them. So they developed these chips and just let them go to work, and these chips did their own training. So it's artificial intelligence, and they came up with their own solutions, their own algorithms, and we've been fitting this hearing aid since January 12th, and it's just been phenomenal. They're telling us that they can hardly tell they're wearing hearing aids. So again, it's wonderful to be independent, because when something like this comes along, I'm not committed to Phonak or Widex, but I will mention the two people that I've had so far who have not preferred these have been Widex users. So for some reason, I like these, but they really like the sound of their Widex. I notice in some of our other offices, they've given some clients the choice between this and the Phonak, and some of them are choosing the Phonak. So there's no technology for every brain, but I think this is a wonderful kind of breakthrough in artificial intelligence and hearing. So Sarah and I talked about some topics I might cover, and we came up with a few. And looping is something I've been very passionate about. I would say that I have provided more hearing loops than anybody in the United States, and I can say that because for years we installed a loop in the living room. Somebody once admitted into the room. Do I do that? I just did. um, I hope that person went through security. No. So the loop, we've installed lots of loops in homes. We don't do that anymore because now we have Bluetooth. But I think we figured out we had looped 3,000 homes in Sonoma County before we stopped doing it, and have just gone to these, these little Bluetooth devices that we put on the television. But we have looped all of these venues. You can see Summerfield Cinemas. That was we were the first people to ever loop a multiplex, and that was kind of tricky because if you've been around hearing loops, they leak, they bleed over, right? So you can stand outside of a loop and for 10 or 15 feet and still hear what's going on in the room. With a multiplex, you've got movies right next to each other. So we had to run a wire under every one of those 700 seats to keep those sounds from spilling into the auditoriums. So we've been passionate about that. We've looped all these churches. I don't know how much more we'll be doing. My loop installer retired, and my other kid who was good at it has a back problem, but we can probably figure, if a church wants to be looped, we'll do everything we can to support them. But we really still believe in looping because it's the technology that works over a broad area where Bluetooth is limited in a public setting. Sarah and I talked about maybe a topic would be distinguishing the difference between an audiologist and a hearing aid dispenser. And I come from a hearing aid dispensing family, as you saw in the beginning. So my father and we have 9 people in our organization fitting hearing aids. 7 of the 9 are dispensers. There's only 2 audiologists. So I'm pro dispenser. There are a lot of really good ones. And I think, like Tana said the other day to me, there's good audiologists and bad audiologists. There's good dispensers and bad dispensers. It's really good to see an audiologist and get a good diagnostic test because we're trained more in that arena. But when it comes down to fitting of hearing aids, if you have a good, sharp dispenser who's comfortable with the technology, I think you'd be in good hands. Once we've taken the medical aspect out of it, then it just comes down to a personality. Who can you work with? How can you communicate to us what you're hearing, what you'd like? And so I would say I'm pro hearing aid dispenser. What do we have next? Oh, another thing about that's my parents. Lost my dad in 2012. He was on hospice, and we developed a hospice program here in Sonoma County where a lot of people, when they pass away, the spouse they want to bring the hearing aids in. They don't know what to do with them. See if we can put them to use. We donate to hospice patients through thrift stores, or they drop them off here. There's a Saks thrift store in downtown Petaluma, and then we make hearing aids available because a time that you'd want to be spending money on hearing aids, right? So that's I have to say that through the pandemic and everything, this has just basically been kind of shut down. But I like to see this fire back up. It's very rewarding. In our offices, we take Medi-Cal, so that's a significant portion of our clients. Medi-Cal in California, they're really they provide very good technology. You can get an Oticon hearing aid or a Phonak good hearing aid. So we do take Medi-Cal, and if somebody isn't quite qualified for Medi-Cal, they're having financial trouble, we have hearing aids for anybody. So if need be, then we have hearing aids to give away. We just have a philosophy that nobody goes without. So if you know anyone in a situation that needs something like that, have them call any of our offices, and we're happy to accommodate. We said we were going to talk briefly about cochlear implants. It's not my area per se, although what I've noticed happening in our field is that more and more clinics that are local are starting to learn to map So I would imagine we'll be moving into this arena with the next hiring of an audiologist when we have the time to do this. And in the meantime, we just refer out when we're no longer able to solve the problem, and we just refer out for cochlear implants. And then I never see the clients again unless I run into them in the store. But you all know they've just made tremendous advances with cochlear implants. Another great advance in our technology has been the advent of being able to pair to your cell phone. Wonderful phone call streaming in binaurally, apps that you can change the sound. So this has been a really big improvement for people. I had a call today, just an hour ago. Bill, he's a carpenter that's been working down in Point Reyes area, and he's kind of a supervisor on a crew, but he said being able to hear my phone calls like this has been the greatest thing that's ever happened to me with hearing aids. So that's great. As you probably all know, we now have GPS in these devices, lots of these devices where if you lose the hearing aid, we can find it. I had a gentleman over in Sonoma a couple of years ago wearing Oticons. He stepped on a yellow jacket nest on his property. He got 42 bites and swinging, and he fell and he broke his shoulder and he broke a bridge in his mouth. And when he came back to us, he got out of the hospital, we looked on his app and we could see he'd lost one of his hearing aids in the chaos, and we could see it was still there on his property, but he didn't want to go get it. So we got him another one. But this GPS is great. We hear lots of funny stories. TV boxes like the one I just held up, wonderful. We pretty much include a TV box with all of our fittings. I do. I'm such a believer in no matter how good the hearing aids fit, TV is always a struggle. So we like to add this. And there's another product. I don't know if any of you are aware of the Roger. This is a Phonak. Wonderful thing. I'm holding it up here. Do you know about that? Yeah. So the Roger Select can sit in the dock on the TV, streams the TV, and then when you go out, you can throw it on the table. Let me turn this on here. And you can see from that picture, it picks up conversation and you can actually direct it. It's got 6 points you can point to. And I learned a trick today that if you take that thing and because sometimes you pick up a lot of table noise there, but if you have an empty glass and turn it upside down, you can put that up off the table. And I was told that helps reduce that noise at the table. So that's a pretty handy accessory. So what makes, as we wrap up here, what makes all of this technology, the big breakthrough happened in 2007 when Oticon came out with the first hearing aid that talked to the other side. So we now, and since then, wow, all the hearing aids do this, and it's binaural processing. So as these chips get faster and faster, and we understand more and more about the brain, we can actually accomplish things. And now with artificial intelligence, it's all about these devices communicating with each other. So it's a system instead of one hearing aid doing this and one hearing aid doing that. It's a system working to give your brain, just the best possible signal. So it's binaural processing. It was the real breakthrough. As you all know, here these are all available and rechargeable now. And if you live around here with PG&E cutting our power, it's not always a great idea, but the Oticon More is only available in a rechargeable at this point. They plan on bringing out the battery one in the next 6 months. So I like to say to people that we have 5 senses, and we can only do something about 2 of them, our vision and our hearing. So I use this as a motivational tool to get people to take that next step to improve their hearing. And I think that's it. I'm happy to take some questions. Do I go back to the regular format? Do I stop sharing? Is that the best?
Thank you, Bill. Yes, please stop sharing your screen. So
Okay, there we go.
Regular format. And I would like to say especially thank you for a very comprehensive presentation. I've been to many of these and I learned a few new things from you. So thank you.
Good. Oh, thank you.
Right. We would like to have people. Oh, I see some new people on here. Hi, Jesse and Virginia. I haven't seen you for a while. Thank you for joining us. Um, we're going to go to question and answer. I don't see anything in the chat. You can raise your hand using the Zoom way if you know how to do it, or you can just raise your hand because we're a small group. But I'd like to start off with a question for Bill, which is, how can people who want to access hearing services help you or any other audiologist or hearing dispenser serve them?
Yeah, I think like kind of like I was saying about the dispenser or audiologist you choose. It's such a rapport thing. This really is a people business, and to someone that you feel comfortable with and that you don't feel like you're bugging us, because these things are. We have a saying in our industry that a hearing aid fitting is never really finished. There's little things. I sent a gentleman home yesterday with a TV box. We've been on the phone 4 times today. It works for 10 minutes. It cuts out. So we try a different cable. I guess he's going to come in and we switch out boxes. I've never run into that before. So all these little things pop up. So it's having communication. We want to hear the thing that we hate the most is when someone comes in, they've bought hearing aids. It's been 9 or 10 months and they come in, well, they're not happy. And we pull up their data on the screen. Well, you're only wearing it 1 hour a day. Well, why do you only, well, it kind of hurts my ear back here. It's like, just like anything else, communication. That's how you can help us and staying on us, hold us. We're not looking to, we want to solve problems. And sometimes we're just missing something. Another thing that happened this week, a woman was in, I just met her. She lives in Katati. She's 60 years old, 59 years old. She's a horse person. And she said, I am so tired I lost the hearing aid I bought from Costco. I only have one. I've quit wearing it altogether. I want to try a different route. and I'm on the horse and I'm trying to hear my friends and other, she's a very active person. And she said, I would just get a surgery. And when she said that, that triggered me to think about Lyric. Do you guys know what Lyric is? That's a little device made by Phonak that we put in the ear and it stays in for 3 months at a time. And then when it dies, you take it's a disposable hearing aid. It's real soft. I could go grab one, but it's interesting. I'll have them bring me one. Hey, Jess, will you bring me a lyric demo? But the point is she made a comment and she just looked, she goes, I'd get a surgery if I could just, like, she doesn't want to hassle with hearing aids, the mask and everything. Well, Lyric is an expensive option and it's not for everybody. But when she said that, it just triggered in me, how about Lyric? And we don't, they're in that box on Lee's ear mold table in that little, and it's just, if she hadn't have said that, because we kind of get out of the habit of Lyric, it's expensive. It's $3,300 a year. So you're going to spend $16,000 over 5 years, as opposed to one set of hearing aids over 5 years, right? So thank you. What it is, it's a, thank you. It's a little device. That's foam rubber. It's real soft, squishable. And they come in about 5 different sizes. It's an analog hearing aid and it goes down in the ear and then it stays in for 2 or 3 months and it dies. You pull it out, throw it away and put a new in it, but you can sleep in them, swim, or not swim too much, shower. But it's expensive and it doesn't have all this wonderful technology, but it's a fact of listening to answer that to me. And if she hadn't have said that, I might have gone down the typical, let's try the Oticon Phonak. And really, and I've talked to her on the phone yesterday, she's thrilled because she's got a carefree solution. So that, to answer your question, it's a communication thing.
Thank you. I really appreciate your focus on communication, because I know from some of our members don't always know how to approach or what to say to a hearing healthcare professional. And so it's really good to hear about the different ways that you may process that information.
Yeah.
I see that Tony Barrett has her hand up. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question?
You're muted, Tony.
Tony, please unmute yourself.
There we go.
Bill, I want to know, this Lyric, what levels of hearing loss does that work with?
It goes down to about 70 dB. 70.
Well, okay. for us plain folk here? Is that
Oh,
moderate, severe, profound?
we can do moderate to severe, but not very far into the severe category. They're limited in power. They're analog devices, not digital. And there's downsides because you might get it wet in the shower. One might be kind of dying and you might not know it for a week or two. And then it's kind of it's for certain people. We don't fit that many of them, but our lyric users that are happy would never wear anything else. So it's not about vanity. It's not about the hearing as much as it's about convenience. I don't want to mess with a hearing aid. And I just love that she said that. And I almost could have missed, I wouldn't have thought of lyric for her if she hadn't expressed her frustration with the hassle of them.
Everybody that's asked me about the lyric, it's about vanity.
Well, we always thought that, but I'm not saying vanity is it. That's number 2. It's right up there, but they sure do like not having to mess with them. But
Well, that's
maybe
true.
they don't want to admit it's vanity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Some people don't actually read chat. I just want to point out that you can read that. And Jessie Johnson just wrote an excellent comment in chat where she says, I often say it is great to write down the hearing challenges you are having so you can share them with your audiologist and dispenser. They can't help you with a challenging situation if they don't know about it. Thank you, Jessie.
Absolutely. Here's an example. Somebody might have a wife just who's had a surgery or has lost the power in her voice, and so they have trouble communicating at home. So I'm going to give you a program for her. So when you two are at home alone, go to that. You would never go outside in that program. It would be too much. But because you told me about that, you really need, there's things like that we can do. So there's an example of, of telling us what you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I have another example of that, which an audiologist I met somewhere mentioned, and I never heard of it. I have a severe to profound loss of my hearing aids are really loud, and I really don't like car noise. And she just said, well, write a program for car noise. I was like, what? And it changed my life. I just have this car noise program. And it's
Wonderful.
part of that is that hearing aid technology has changed so much, but it really is important to express what you need. I didn't even express that to my own audiologist. It was in a meeting with another audiologist where it was kind of triggered by a conversation. So
that's great. I have a woman who picks up her grandchildren, or she did when they were in school, picks them up from school, and she wears the Widex. And the Widex app, we can actually send the signal to the back. So when she's got the kids in the car, she hits that mode. The hearing aids are now focused to back instead of front. And she hears her grandkids in the back seat. So, yeah, I wouldn't know that if she didn't tell me she picks up her grandkids. So.
Okay, so do we have any other questions? Rich Osborne,
Yes.
please unmute yourself.
I had my hand up. On the vanity issue, I want to point out that you see today, especially among young people, these white things sticking out of the ears. And yet older people won't wear hearing aids because, oh my gosh, somebody might see them. Whereas it's working its way up in the age group where they have these things in the ears, plus they even have a wire draped down behind it. So I think the vanity thing was a bogus issue to begin with. That's my comment.
But you know what's funny is Phonak has made a new product. They call it the Phonak Black, and they made me a pair because these I'm an Android user. One in my ear and show you. The idea is to make it look like something you bought at Best Buy, like not a hearing. It's so obvious it can't be a hearing aid.
Jesse, please go on. You have your hand up.
So yeah, it's kind of to your point. It's like let's make these look like cool Bluetooth earphones or something. But yeah, I don't think these are selling very well. They told me that it's kind of been a flop, but I appreciated my pair. I use them when I walk and listen to podcasts. They're nice. They stream and phone calls. They stream nicely.
Sorry,
Bill,
Dad,
I was
you
going to
like,
ask.
we're still talking. I'm reading captions and they were a little behind you. So if we're ready, can we move on to Jesse Johnson's question?
Oh, Bill,
Hi,
I was
Jess.
just gonna, hi.
Hi.
I'm from the Hearing and Speech Center in San Francisco.
Oh, hi.
Hi. I was just wondering if you've had a lot of clients that you've been doing like a mask program for them.
Oh, a
Or when they're
mask.
out to boost.
No, actually, I haven't. I wonder if anyone else, some of our other fitters might have done that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just gonna say that's something we've seen some people ask for, and in case anybody needed that.
That's I'm going to make note of that. Yeah. We just all sit and complain. We don't do anything about it. Mask program.
To
I want to
use,
ask
when
around.
you're at the checkout,
Oh,
maybe
it's
not when you're
terrible.
walking around the store, but when you're checking out at the, with your at Safeway or something, so you get a little bit more
Uh,
boost so you can understand the person.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's great. Thank you for mentioning that.
I admit I'm lost. What are you talking about, Jesse? I mean,
So to have, like, you have a program for the car. Some
Right.
people are having a program to give them a little extra boost. So when they're having interactions and someone has a mask on, it's increasing the sound a
cool.
little bit. Yeah, it's just giving a little extra boost. You probably wouldn't want that on all the time, like Bill was saying, for the, at home, the person that had the wife who kind of lost the power in her voice. You wouldn't want that on all the time because it'd be too loud. But if I'm about to check out right now and I'm not going to be able to hear what the cashier is saying to me, changing your program so that you can get a little bit more.
That's a great idea and boost the
time-
highs. I'm going to do that with my phone act black.
in all of the HLA meetings, masking has always come up and no one has suggested that.
I
So
know.
I'm
I haven't
really glad
thought of
you
that.
brought that up, Jesse. Yeah.
Yep. Good one.
Okay, more questions.
Sarah's raising her
Sarah,
hand.
Lizzo, would you like to talk?
I wanted to make a comment that the state of California has a device for people who have quiet speech. It's a little personal amplification system that it's for people who have problems with their voice. It's very quiet. And then it has a little, a speaker on it, and you speak into a microphone so the
Oh.
other person can hear you. So that's that's the problem from a different angle from the person who has this. It's called soft speech, but it's a free device from the state of California, along with the free telephones.
Right.
So I wanted to comment on that. And then I wanted to ask you, what seems to be the age of the people who come into your different offices? Are they all in an older age range? Or are you seeing children, or what ages do you see?
We don't see children. We see them from about 5 up. We have some that come from the clinic down the street. We do some hearing testing, but we're not a big pediatric organization. But I don't know. I think the boomers have arrived. When all this talk about baby boomers, like 8 years ago, here they come. Oh yeah, they're going to wait 7 years too, like everybody else. So there was a delayed response. So I wish I knew the answer. We just see all ages, but 55, but we have a lot of 70s and 80s, and yeah, I don't know. My son could probably tell you. He's a data guy. He could answer that.
So Alan Custer has his hand up. Would you like to go now?
Sure. I just threw something in the chat that Jesse sent out earlier today, I guess, right before the meeting. And I don't know if there's anybody who has any interest in it. I don't know if she wants to comment on it or anything.
Sure. A woman had reached out to me for our cochlear implant support group. She has recently been implanted about a year and a half ago. She's 74. She's a semi-retired writer for the New York Times, their science section. And she's trying to write an experience about her success with her cochlear implant. And she just wanted to see if anyone else wanted to share their stories with her. She's not going to use any personal information. She just kind of wanted to know, how did you get guided towards a cochlear implant? Like, who brought that up? An audiologist, a family member, and then at what age that happened for you. So her contact information is there if you wanted to share your story.
Right.
So open for any more questions. Okay, Matthew.
Bill, I have a phone app, Nadia Ultra Power hearing aid, bleep power hearing aid. Does not have a Bluetooth capability in it. Do you know why it doesn't have a Bluetooth?
How long have you had it?
About 3 years, 2-3 years.
I don't know, but what I learned today we had a meeting with Phonak. You have a T coil, right? Do you have a T coil in the hearing aids?
Yeah.
They have a version of Roger now, right, with a neck loop. You may know about that, Jesse. But they have that you can just take that same Roger pen or the Roger Select and run it through your T coil. But I think the Oticon power aids, aren't they? They all have Bluetooth. I'm surprised that Naida doesn't have it. But do you have an iPhone, Matthew?
Yeah, I got an iPhone. Yeah. Yeah.
So you can always wear a streamer, around your neck for phone connection. But it is nice to just have a direct connection. So.
Sorry. Marty?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just wear on that. Yeah, I use it sometime, but it'd be nice to have a Bluetooth in there. And
Absolutely.
I don't know why the
Huh.
doesn't have a Bluetooth.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Phonak's got a pretty complete line, that's for sure, but I don't know.
So Matthew, I just want to say that I went for many years without Bluetooth, and just this year, with a severe profound loss like you, finally got hearing aids with Bluetooth. It is a major difference. Major difference to have Bluetooth enabled hearing aids. If you are at any point ready to look for hearing aids, it might be an interesting change for you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
One thing I'll say, if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, a lot of people have that. You know what I'm talking about? Like you have this, where you have a benefit, or they call it a benefit, but it's really just a negotiated discount. So it's confronting our whole industry, right? where you then come in to see us, you purchase the hearing aid from this third party who mails us the hearing aids. We fit you, you pay them, and then they pay us a fitting fee. And it's growing and growing, and then we're supposed to charge you $65 a visit, and it's really a disrupting thing in our industry. So we've come up with our own plan where we have really high levels of technology available at that quite reduced price that you would be eligible for through the third party. So we're kind of excited. So someone who has so you're going to save major money and still get premium technology, Bluetooth and all that. So if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, we want you to have more options than just going through that third party and they mail you a hearing aid. They mail it here, we fit it, but your choices are very limited, and that's just kind of a
I
interesting
think
program.
that Bill is bringing up something the hearing aid industry is changing, and different kinds of hearing care offices and companies react a little differently. For instance, I have Kaiser in my Medicare Advantage. I don't have to, I get the hearing aids through Kaiser, but I get a discount after having Medicare Advantage for a certain amount of time. Because my hearing aids were so expensive, that discount was helpful, but not helpful enough on my income. And so I had to look at other programs. I know Jesse Johnson's organization has an excellent program. So if you are experiencing a need for more technology than you can afford, I really encourage anyone here to really look at all of the different options that are available to you.
Yeah, we just have to all be kind of creative, because with this third party stuff, that some of these companies are actually
Yeah,
owned by the manufacturers. It's all,
right.
it's kind of
Right, that's
muddy.
what I meant. It's just
Exactly.
everyone needs to find the best thing for themselves. But I see Fran has her hand up. Would you like to ask the question? Fran, please unmute yourself.
There
I
you go.
just, I just want to ask you a question. I'm not familiar with Jesse's program. Can someone address that, or how I get on it?
Yeah,
Tana, you
Fran,
were just,
Tana has my contact information, and we can connect anytime outside of this call, and I can talk to you.
oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
Great.
Sure.
Yes, we'll do that, Fran, later.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are now about 5 minutes to 5, and we have another 5 minutes for questions before we go into socialization or any comments. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say? Tony, I see your hand up.
Yes, hi. I think this is a good time for me to mention that the speech pathology, audiology, and hearing aid dispensers board, I don't know if I got everything
Yeah,
in.
pretty good.
They have, in conjunction with the assemblyman in the San Mateo area, there is a bill regarding locked hearing aids.
Oh,
So locked hearing aids are hearing aids that if you buy them from somebody, like a warehouse hearing aid place, or there's some private practices that have Audibel hearing aids, Belltone, Miracle Ear. These are proprietary locked hearing aids. And what that means is that you must return to the provider for adjustments and any warranty repairs or anything like that. You can't just go to any hearing aid dispenser. You must go to return. So if you don't like that person, I don't think you got the best deal, you're stuck. The only exception is if you get it from a big box house, you can go to another big box house. So I'm going to use Costco. If you go to Costco, you don't like your dispenser, you can go to another Costco, but in some areas that might be, far off. I'm going to put a link in the chat that talks about AB 435 and looking for your support. You're going to hear from California State Association. We need your support because these are not consumer friendly hearing aids.
100% agree.
So here's the problem. If you've get hearing aids from, say, a private audiologist that sells Audibel hearing aids, and you go to a wedding in Massachusetts, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, you have a problem. What are you going to do? You need to find somebody that can help you. And you can't just go to anybody. So when we promoted this, we have a webinar all about this. I'm going to try to find this.
That's great.
I would like you to see it, because if you go out of town, you're really out of luck to get immediate help. And so you really have to struggle. You can't just go to anybody. So I'm going to find the video. I'm going to put it in the chat. And Bill, do you want to make some comments about that?
I'm 100% behind it. We run into that so often, and we have to send a lot of the manufacturers like Oticon. There's a group that private labels and locks them up, but Oticon will unlock them, but we have to still inconvenient for the client. I have to send your hearing aid in. I'll see you back in a week. And so, yeah, it's ridiculous. It takes away your choice.
Exactly. So the AB 435 is would restrict, or no, it would require that you be informed at the time of purchase, at the time of ordering, that you have a proprietary hearing aid and what that would be. So I'm gonna find the link I already put in chat is information from the state HLAA State Association
Great.
website, but I'm also going to find the YouTube and put the link in.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's also, Bill, you probably see this with the loaner, like the donated hearing aids that come through. So many times I have someone who got a really nice set of hearing aids from Costco, and someone passes and they want to donate it for our loaner program,
Sure.
or like your program, and I can't do anything with them
And that's
because they're
terrible.
locked.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
And so then they're not serving anybody, and they just kind of turn into
Oh, it's
technology
terrible.
recycling.
Terrible it's bad on every level.
Okay.
People need to be free to choose and move about.
Okay. So I am really delighted that we've had all these questions and that we have Bill here. I'm delighted that we had some faces I haven't seen for a while. Jesse, I'm really glad to see you in Virginia. We haven't seen you for a while. From here, we're going to Rich Osborne for an announcement, and then Jim Ozer will be starting with the socialization part of the meeting. You're welcome to stay and talk during the socialization. We all unmute and we just have a conversation. So
Okay.
thank you again. And
Well, thank you all. I need to get to my granddaughter. I get dinner with them tonight. So she goes to bed at 6. So I'm going to run over there. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Mhm.
I wouldn't call it an announcement. What I would like to do is to point out 3 upcoming meetings in case you have not received the email on this. Next week, March 18th, we have our chapter leaders meeting. And sometimes that's just the 3 of us, Sarah, Tana, and myself. But occasionally people join us, especially when they want to make suggestions, things for us to consider.